The SWAT officer's closest friend was critically injured in the operation, and what he did next against his commander's orders shocked everyone. The emergency room lights at Denver General Hospital cast harsh shadows across Detective Ryan Torres' face as he sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair, his SWAT uniform still stained with his partner's blood. Through the glass doors of the ICU, he could see Detective Marcus Chen lying motionless, connected to a maze of tubes and monitors that beeped with mechanical precision. 12 hours earlier, everything had gone wrong. The warehouse raid on the abandoned textile factory in South Denver was supposed to be routine. Intelligence had indicated that the Vega cartel was using the location to store drugs and weapons before distribution across the Rocky Mountain region. 5 suspects, standard arrest procedures, in and out clean. Ryan and Marcus had been partners for 6 years, closer than brothers. They'd saved each other's lives more times than either could count, shared holidays when their families were out of town, and developed the kind of wordless communication that made them one of the most effective SWAT duos in the department. The breach had started perfectly. Ryan took point through the main entrance while Marcus circled to the rear with 2 other officers. The first floor was clear, just empty machinery and dust-covered equipment. But when they reached the second level, the intelligence proved catastrophically wrong. Instead of 5 suspects, they found 15. Instead of a storage operation, they discovered a major distribution center with millions of dollars worth of product. And instead of street-level dealers, they faced professionally trained armed guards with military-grade weapons. The gunfight erupted without warning. Ryan heard Marcus's voice over the radio. "Multiple hostiles, second floor rear. We need backup now." Then came the explosion. A grenade had turned the rear stairwell into twisted metal and debris. When the smoke cleared, Marcus was trapped under a collapsed beam, his leg crushed, blood pooling beneath him. The other 2 officers were pinned down by heavy gunfire, unable to reach him. Ryan had fought his way through 3 floors of armed resistance to get to his partner, carrying Marcus out under fire, while the suspects escaped through a hidden tunnel system that intelligence had never detected. Now, Marcus was fighting for his life, and the men responsible were in the wind. "Detective Torres?" A voice behind him made Ryan turn. Captain Sarah Mitchell, his commanding officer, approached with 2 cups of coffee and the grim expression of someone about to deliver bad news. "How is he?" she asked, handing Ryan a cup. "Still critical. Internal bleeding, possible spinal damage. Doctors won't know more for another few hours." Captain Mitchell sat beside him. "Ryan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Go ahead. Are you thinking about going after them?" Ryan met her eyes. "They almost killed my partner, Captain. They're responsible for what happened to Marcus." "That's not what I asked." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "Yes, I'm thinking about it." Captain Mitchell sighed. "Ryan, I understand what you're feeling. Marcus is like family to all of us, but I can't let you pursue this independently. You're too close to it, too emotionally involved. The department will handle the investigation through proper channels." "With all due respect, Captain, proper channels let them escape in the first place. Our intelligence was wrong, our backup was insufficient, and now my partner is fighting for his life. Which is exactly why you need to step back. I'm pulling you from the case, effective immediately. Take some time, be with Marcus, let the detectives do their job." Ryan felt anger flare in his chest. "You're sidelining me? I'm protecting you, and I'm protecting the integrity of the investigation. If you go off on your own, anything you find becomes inadmissible. You could compromise the entire case. Captain, I know these streets better than anyone. I know where they'd go, how they operate. I can find them." "No, Ryan, that's final. Go home, get some rest, and stay away from this investigation." But Ryan Torres had no intention of going home. That night, he sat in his apartment going through everything he knew about the Vega cartel operation. Marcus had been the detail-oriented one, the one who spotted patterns and connections that others missed. But Ryan was the one with the street's contacts, the one who understood how these organizations moved and hid. The warehouse raid had been compromised from the start, which meant the cartel had advance warning. They'd been ready for police intervention, prepared with escape routes and heavy weaponry. That kind of preparation required time, resources, and most importantly, safe houses where they could regroup. Ryan spread a map of Denver across his kitchen table and began marking locations. The Vega cartel operated primarily in 5 neighborhoods, but after a blown operation like this, they'd need somewhere off their usual grid, somewhere the police wouldn't think to look immediately. He started making calls to his network of confidential informants, street contacts who'd helped him solve cases for years. Most were scared. Word had spread quickly about the warehouse shootout, and nobody wanted to be seen cooperating with police against the cartel. But Maria Santos, a former addict who now ran a community center in the West Side, was willing to talk. "Ryan," she said when he met her at an all-night diner, "you shouldn't be out here asking questions. Word is the Vega people are looking for cops who might come after them." "Maria, they nearly killed my partner. I need to know where they're hiding." "This isn't official, is it?" "You're not here as a cop." Ryan hesitated. "Number, this is personal." Maria studied his face. "I heard about Marcus. I'm sorry. He was always good to the kids at the center. Help me find them, Maria." She was quiet for a long moment. "There's a place in Aurora, old motel that's been closed for 2 years. Owner died, family couldn't sell it, but somebody's been keeping the power on. My cousin works for the electric company. Says there's been unusual activity there the past few days." Ryan wrote down the address. "Thank you." "Ryan," Maria called as he stood to leave, "be careful. These aren't street dealers you're dealing with. These are professional." Over the next 3 days, Ryan conducted his own surveillance operation. The Red Mountain Motel in Aurora was exactly what Maria had described. A rundown property that should have been empty, but showed clear signs of occupation. Cars came and went at odd hours, always different vehicles, always taking circuitous routes. Ryan confirmed that at least 8 members of the cartel cell were using the motel as a temporary base. The same faces from the warehouse plus additional personnel who'd likely been brought in for security. But Ryan wasn't planning to storm the building alone. He was planning something much more sophisticated. On Thursday morning, he called in a tip to the Aurora Police Department's drug task force, reporting suspicious activity at the motel. He provided just enough detail to warrant investigation, but not enough to indicate how he'd obtained the information. At the same time, he contacted an old friend from the DEA who owed him a favor from a joint operation 2 years earlier. Within hours, federal agents were coordinating with local police for a multi-agency raid. But Ryan's plan had additional layers. He'd discovered that the cartel was planning to move their operation again within 48 hours, splitting into smaller cells and disappearing into the network of safe houses across the region. The Aurora Motel was just a temporary gathering point, which meant timing was critical. Ryan also knew that the cartel had police contacts, corrupt officers who provided warnings about upcoming raids. The warehouse operation had been compromised, which meant they had someone inside feeding them information. So Ryan set up a test. He leaked false information through official channels about a planned raid on a warehouse in Commerce City, scheduled for Friday morning. Then, he monitored police radio frequencies and cartel communications through contacts in narcotics division. Within 6 hours, the Aurora Motel had increased security and several vehicles had moved to new locations. The leak had been confirmed. Friday morning, while the official task force raided the empty Commerce City warehouse, Ryan was coordinating the real operation at the Aurora Motel. He'd provided the DEA with precise intelligence about the building layout, the number of suspects, their weapons capabilities, and their planned escape routes. The raid happened with perfect precision. All 8 cartel members were arrested without shots being fired. The agents recovered weapons, drugs, and most importantly, detailed records of the cartel's regional operations. Ryan watched from a distance as his target was loaded into federal custody vehicles. The men who had nearly killed Marcus were finally in custody, and they would face federal charges that carried mandatory minimum sentences. But his satisfaction was short-lived. Captain Mitchell was waiting for him when he returned to his apartment that evening. "Ryan," she said, her voice cold with disappointment. "We need to talk." "Captain, you can explain how you ran an unauthorized investigation that could have gotten people killed? You can explain how you violated direct orders and compromised department procedures." Ryan led her into his living room, where his makeshift investigation materials were still spread across the coffee table. Maps, photos, surveillance notes, contact information. I can explain how I found the people responsible for Marcus's injuries and made sure they faced justice, he said. Captain Mitchell looked at the evidence spread before her. Despite her anger, Ryan could see her processing the thoroughness of his work, the sophistication of his operation. Ryan, she said quietly, this is professional-level investigative work, the kind that takes weeks to develop properly. I had motivation. You also had good instincts. She picked up one of his surveillance photos. The DEA raid was flawless. No injuries, full arrests, major evidence recovery. They're calling it one of the most successful cartel operations in recent memory. I just provided intelligence. You orchestrated the entire thing. Captain Mitchell sat on his couch, her expression shifting from anger to something approaching admiration. Ryan, what you did was reckless and insubordinate. It was also brilliant. Are you going to suspend me? I should. You violated direct orders, conducted unauthorized surveillance, and manipulated federal agencies without their knowledge. She paused. But you also took down a major cartel cell that had been evading law enforcement for months. Ryan waited. There's something else, Captain Mitchell continued. The federal investigation has identified the police leak. Detective Williams in narcotics has been arrested for providing information to the cartel. Your test confirmed what Internal Affairs has been investigating for weeks. So the warehouse raid was compromised from the beginning. Yes, Williams tipped them off about our operation. That's why they were ready for us. Ryan felt a mixture of vindication and anger. Marcus almost died because of a corrupt cop. Marcus almost died because we didn't know we had a corruption problem. What you did exposed that problem and prevented future casualties. Captain Mitchell stood up, looking around at Ryan's investigation materials one more time. I'm not going to suspend you, Ryan, but I am going to offer you something. What? The department is creating a new joint task force with federal agencies, focused on major organized crime, with authority to operate across jurisdictions. It needs someone who understands how these organizations think, someone who can develop complex operations and see patterns that others miss. Ryan blinked. You're offering me a promotion? I'm offering you a chance to do what you just did, but with full authority and proper resources. Interested? Before Ryan could answer, his phone rang. It was the hospital. Detective Torres? This is Dr. Elizabeth Morrison at Denver General. I'm calling about Detective Chen. Ryan's heart stopped. Yes? He's awake. He's asking for you. Ryan arrived at the hospital to find Marcus sitting up in bed, pale but alert. His leg was in a cast, and he was connected to an IV, but his eyes were clear. You look terrible, Marcus said with a weak smile. You look worse, Ryan replied, pulling up a chair. I heard about the arrests. The nurses had been talking about some big federal raid in Aurora. Ryan met his partner's eyes. They got them, Marcus, all of them. I also heard that my partner might have had something to do with it, despite being ordered to stay away from the case. Ryan didn't deny it. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Thank you. You would have done the same for me. Yeah, Marcus said, but I probably would have gotten myself killed in the process. You actually pulled it off. 6 months later, Ryan Torres stood in a federal courtroom watching as the last member of the Vega cartel cell was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. The operation had been a complete success. Not only were the immediate suspects in custody, but the intelligence gathered had led to the dismantling of the entire regional network. Marcus had returned to duty with a commendation for bravery and a new assignment to the joint task force that Captain Mitchell had created. His leg had healed completely, though he still walked with a slight limp that he claimed made him look more intimidating. As they left the courthouse together, Marcus asked, "Any regrets about going against orders?" Ryan thought about it. None. Sometimes justice requires you to step outside the system to make the system work. And if you'd been wrong, if your operation had failed, then at least I would have tried. That's what partners do for each other. Captain Mitchell joined them on the courthouse steps. Gentlemen, she said, ready for your next assignment? Ryan and Marcus exchanged glances. They'd been partners for 6 years, but the events of the past months had forged something deeper than professional partnership. They'd proven that loyalty, determination, and careful planning could overcome even the most corrupt obstacle. We're ready, Ryan said. Good, Captain Mitchell smiled, because the FBI just asked for our help with a trafficking operation that spans 3 states. Apparently, they've heard good things about our unconventional methods. As they walked toward their car, Marcus shook his head. You know what I learned from all this? What's that? Sometimes the best way to follow orders is to ignore them completely. Ryan laughed. Don't let the captain hear you say that. She already knows. Why do you think she created the task force? Looking back at the courthouse where justice had finally been served, Ryan realized that some victories required breaking rules to uphold principles. Sometimes loyalty to your partner mattered more than loyalty to procedures, and sometimes the most effective law enforcement happened when good cops refused to let bad systems prevent them from doing what was right. The badge on his chest represented authority, but the friendship beside him represented something stronger, the willingness to risk everything to protect the people who mattered most.